Aloha from the beautiful island of Kauai. So it's a rainy, kind of overcast day, and that's kind of expected in Kauai because they do get a lot of rain. And here we're sitting on this ship, and we can hear a lot of chickens. So a few years ago there was a hurricane in Kauai, and the chickens all got out, and the chickens are still out. So it's kind of funny. So maybe we'll see some chickens today. So I'm going to take you with me as we go around the island. We're not going to be on the island of Kauai very long because our ship, we have to be back on the ship by 4 p.m. But that will give us about 6 hours to go into town and do something. We don't have any formal short excursions scheduled or anything because everything was booked when we got around to looking at it. But that'll give us a chance to go into town and maybe go to Starbucks because I haven't had that in a week and a half. So come with me and let's go explore the island of Kauai. All right, we have arrived in beautiful Kauai. So what we're gonna do now is we are gonna go to the museum, and I'll show you some views of the front of the building because it's a very pretty historical building. And I don't know if I can film inside, but I'll tell you a little bit about it. So let's just go to the museum and check this out and enjoy our time here on the Garden Island. And there's lots of chickens here too, still. Okay, this is the Kauai Museum, and what we want to show you is that it's built out of native lava rocks, so that's kind of neat. And originally this was built as the library, and then in the 1960s it became the museum. So we're going to go inside and check this out. It looks like it's going to be a great place to spend the day. All right, while we're waiting for my friend to finish looking at that part of the museum, I've got a funny little story. So the first time that we came to Hawaii, or Kauai I guess, was when I was in college. And we stayed at this beautiful hotel that was out on the beach. And the hotel had no TVs in the rooms. So we were here over Christmas. And Christmas Eve day, like everything shut down. So we go back to our hotel and sat there and we're like, what are we supposed to do now? And so then we went to Christmas Eve service, and it was beautiful, and there was no room in the church as I remember. We had to sit outside on the grass, and so we listened to them sing Christmas songs in Hawaiian, and that was really pretty. But then we went back to the hotel and we're like, what are we supposed to do now? The next day, Christmas Day came, and we went to the Cocoa Palms, which is no longer here, and we had Christmas brunch, and we called our friends and family, and then we went back to the hotel and we sat there and like, what are we supposed to do now? So there was nothing to do with no TV. That was like hard to adjust to. So I remember Christmas Day, we ended up going to the beach and just laid around and got suntanned. It was a perfect way to spend Christmas with no connections to the outside world because everything else was closed. So it was a good time on the island of Kauai. And look at this huge bowl. This is a sugar boiling pot. And this is a section all about World War II. Interesting. So this little museum here in Kauai has a lot of interesting stuff in it. It has several vakas, which are those outrigger canoes that they used to use. It has lots of woodwork, bowls and pots and different things. It has tapa cloths, which were the kind of native clothing that they'd make back in the old days out of mulberry bushes, mulberry bark, I guess. And they have lots of history of the royal family of the Hawaiian dynasty. So it's kind of neat to see. So if you're ever on the island of Kauai, I definitely recommend coming to this museum and checking it out. It's pretty neat. Okay, so we just saw the tapas, so I gotta tell you a little story about those. So years ago we were in Tonga, and we were on this island called Vavau, and I said to one of the ladies, I said, hey, I'd like to buy a tapa cloth. And I thought it'd be something like 1 foot by 1 foot that you sell to the tourists. And for $40, this lady gave me this tapa cloth that's like 15 feet by 15 feet, and it's huge. And it's really pretty, but I'm like, what do I do with this huge tablecloth because it's so big? So it's been sitting in my closet for years and years. I'm like, what should I do with it? And maybe the museum does it. Funny. All right, we're done with the museum tour. So being in this museum totally makes me want to go back to the Cook Islands. So I don't think I've ever told you guys, but I've spent a lot of time, and I mean a lot of time, in the Cook Islands, specifically Rarotonga, Aitutaki, and the island of Attu, which is very, very remote. So on the Rarotonga, I learned how to speak some Cook Island Maori, Kia rana, Kaya naro ta'atai, that means hello, I'm gonna go to the beach. So that's fun. So it's fun. So someday I'll go back to Rarotonga. I haven't been there in like 15 years probably at this point. But I think I've been there like every year for 10 years for a long time. So it was a fun place to go. Very beautiful. The only problem was it was a long flight from Los Angeles. So you had to go all the way from Los Angeles to Papaere, Tahiti, and then transfer. You could catch a direct flight from Los Angeles. Sometimes we'd come through Los Angeles to Honolulu, and then Honolulu to Rarotonga. And one time we had to go Los Angeles to Auckland, New Zealand, and then from Auckland back up to Rarotonga. So it's kind of a hard island to get to sometimes, but once you're there, it's so worth it because it's a beautiful atoll, and Aitutaki is a very beautiful atoll, which is magic. And the island of Attu is probably the most remote place I've ever been in the world, but it's a very neat place too. So if you ever have the chance, I highly recommend going to the Cook Islands. Maybe one day we'll go there and take you guys with me. We'll see. Just got to find the time and the money to do all of that. Anyway, I think we're going to go back to the ship now. So we're going to have our drink and then head to the ship and find out what's going on there. Alrighty, so we're back from the museum. The Kauai Museum is very nice. They have a lot of history of Kauai, of the royal family. They have a neat exhibit on tapa cloths, and that's the kind of clothes that they used to wear back in the olden days. They'd make it out of mulberry bark and make these clothes. So they had a nice exhibit on that. So if you're ever in Kauai, I definitely recommend going to the Kauai Museum. But I gotta tell you about our experience getting back from the Kauai Museum because it was a nightmare. So we got over there in a cab, and it sounds like there's a plane right overhead. So anyway, we got over there in a cab, and we were ready to go, and we told the front desk we were ready to go. And so they called the cab company, and they said, nope, we're busy, we can't send anybody. And they called another cab company, and they said they're busy and couldn't send anybody. So they called like all the cab companies on the island, it seemed like, and they were all too busy and couldn't send anybody. We're like, oh my gosh, we have to be back on the ship in 2 hours. And you know that if you miss the ship, if you're not on the ship at all aboard time, you're kind of screwed. So we're like, oh my gosh, we have 2 hours to figure this out. So I went on Uber, my friend went on Lyft, and we called them both. And finally, after like 45 minutes, the Uber showed up. Thank you, Kimberly, our Uber driver. You're a lifesaver. So Kimberly showed up, and she was very nice and said, yes, I can get you back to the ship on time. And then the Lyft guy came, and my friend has a scooter thing. And the Lyft guy looked at the scooter and said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to help you. And so we're like, oh my gosh. So then Kimberly, who's the Uber driver, was able to take apart the scooter and put it in her car and drive us back to the ship. So we made it with 45 minutes to spare, and that is cutting it too close in my opinion, because you know how things always happen along the way. Like we could have gotten stuck in traffic or a flat tire, who knows? But anyway, you always want to be back on ship with plenty of time, because when they leave, and they're not waiting for you. So that was our adventure today, and now I'm gonna have to have a glass of wine at dinner to unstress from that experience. Anyway, Kauai is a beautiful island. If you ever have the chance, I highly recommend coming here because it's just so pretty, the Garden Island. And there's chickens everywhere, which is always fun. So anyway, I think that's it for today's video. Let's just go ahead and take a look at the view from our balcony, and we'll call it a night. So have a good day, everybody. Be sure to like, subscribe, and all that good stuff, and we'll see you tomorrow in the next video.